everyone, today I'm going to share with you my experience with a full build system in this Lian O11 Vision, and I'll be conducting the test using two radiators, which is the Galahad 2 Trinity 240 and the Galahad 2 Trinity 360. Now besides this, right, for today's test, in fact I've done this few days and I have standardized all the fans which I'll be making use of the Lian AL120 V2. So these are the fans, be it the case fans and the radiator fans. So there will not be any other fans besides this. Now before I begin, I'd like to thank Lian to have provided all this equipment for me to share with you guys, and also to Block Soda to have done the arrangement on the delivery. Let's begin. Starting off with what are the components that are fit into this O11 Vision. On my left, these are the system spec. I'm making use of the AMD Ryzen 9 7950X processor. As for the rest of the components, you can pause this video and to have a look. I'm conducting this test in a room temperature of 30 to 31 degrees Celsius. And why is it so hot? Reason being, I'm in a hot and humid country. So this will be a good reference for those of you who are staying in a country whereby it's hot and humid. And as for those at a cooler region, or should I say cooler weather, you will yield much better results. Now, for case fan and radiator fans, as mentioned to you, I'll be using the Lian AL120 V2 just to standardize all this. And as for the Liquid AIO, I'll be using two of Galahad 2 family, which is the Trinity 360 at the top and the 240 at the bottom. Now, on the benchmark itself, you will be seeing all this, as in like telling you the orientation of the fans or the radiator fans. See the arrows over here? So it's either exhaust, intake, and such. There are a total of 6 tests from A to F, where you will witness a live recording, where A to C is meant to have the Galahad 2 Trinity 360. Else for D to F, I am curious how a Galahad 2 Trinity 240 perform. Now, there are additional tests which I've done, and I don't find it useful to show you. And these are the position, whereby you can see that all this configuration, as in like the fan direction on the radiator or on the case itself, right, it reaches a max temperature of 95 degrees Celsius and it will not drop. And worst part is that for this configuration that is highlighted in red, be it the 360 or the 240, having the fans exhaust all out, the processor is throttling very badly. Now you might be asking, why am I not using the performance and the LCD? Reason being, I do have a performance test on all the Galahad 2 family. So if you guys are curious to know, you can click on my top right hand corner, where you will shows you the content of the thermal results on all this Liquid AIO. And also part of the reason that I didn't use LCD or the performance, cause if you to plug them into this case, right, it will yield even better result. So just to standardize, I have just used the Galahad 2 Trinity 360 and the 240. This is the UFEI of the MSI B650M mortar, and the things that I've set is mainly on the OC, which I've set the OC Explorer mode to normal. Next, I will set the advanced CPU configuration, whereby I make use of the PBO tool, which is the Precision Boost Overdrive, and all these settings I've done it manually. Now, reason for me to set this, right, based on the fact the nature of the case itself, it's not really on airflow, so I have to limit my voltage drawn by this 7950X. If I were to set it default, right, most of the time you'll be seeing 95 degrees Celsius, which I find it not appropriate. So I've set this, I've done the calculation, so this system will run at 5 gigahertz with the positioning on the fans and such, and you will see what are the temperature. Now, next thing I've set, speaking of which, right, though I've set all these settings over here, when you see the actual benchmark, right, it might not draw at this voltage, or to draw the amperage from the TDC or the EDC, but you'll be shown on the benchmark. Next, I've set the curve optimizer to all cos to negative 15. Besides this, I've also triggered the XMP profile, as you can see here, for my RAMs to run at 6000 MHz bus speed, and with this timing over here that you see. So these are the things that I've set. Now, besides this, right, on the hardware monitor itself, where you can see the fan curve and such, I have only two. Now, take note that CPU fan 1, right, this is the one that is connected to the the UniFan controller. So it only takes in one instruction. So all the fans, be it the radiator or the case fans, right, they're running on one simple RPM, which is this, which I've connected all to this CPU 1. Else for pump 2, as usual, it will be running at max speed. The application that I'll be using is Cinebench R23 and hardware info. I won't be showing you this. Instead, I have projected all the stats over here. And also Firmark. Now, reason to run this Firmark is to let my GPU load while doing the stress test on the processor. So over on my left, where you see this graph, right, what I'll be doing is I will run a 30 minutes run, then I'll let it idle 10 minutes, then I'll run 10 minutes actual test. So this is live. And in the meantime, over here, these are the stats which I have split them into section. Where you have the top orange color, this is the processor itself, where it tells you the temperature, the clock speed, and how much V-core is being drawn, and the usage. Now for this usage, when I run the Cinebench itself, right, you will toggle at 100 and fluctuate in between, and the power package being drawn to provide this processor to run at 5 gig. And for the pump, this is what I mentioned to you on the UEFI. I've set this at max speed, so it'll run forever at max. And also for the CPU, right, in fact, this is not only the radiator fans, but also the case fans, as all this, right, are connected to L-Connect 3, from Lenny, and I have switched to PWM mode instead of using Lenny's default pump and fan settings. So take note of this. Next will be this section here in green. These are all the auxiliary temperature, like the motherboard, the chipset itself, the rear VRM, the top VRM, the DDRMs, and their allocation slot, the M.2, and such. Now coming to the yellow section, this is where the temperature of the GPU is at. So you will be able to gauge, like, during the different position, right, what's the temperature between the CPU and the GPU, and of course all this over here. Now at the last section, this is whereby I told you that at UEFI I have set the PBO2, and these are the settings over here. So when it runs, right, you will see that this will be consistent. On the actual run, this is what you will be seeing. It's best not to watch on your mobile and to watch this on your desktop, because the stats will be rather small. And this is the 360, then followed by the 240. Let's begin. The results are out, and the orientation of this chart as follow. On my left, as you can see, this is highlighted in blue. This is the Galahad to Trinity 360 Liquid AIO, which is over here. And it does shows you the style A to C, as you can see here, which tells you the orientation of the fans. As for the green highlight from style D to F, which see over here, this is the Galahad 2 Trinity 240. Now as for the temperature that you see over here, each row based on the style, how I derive the temperature and the clock speed, whereby I rewatch my benchmark recording as you have seen earlier. So I run it a couple of times at the last 4 to 3 minutes, and I was looking at the figure, how often does the figure touches, let's say, the CPU temperature. When it hits most of the time 85.3 degrees Celsius, right, I will just plug it down. Same goes to the clock speed, the motherboard, chipset, the VRMs and such. If you notice, I have highlighted some of the figures in blue and how I derive that these are the best temperature or clock speed. I will just choose from style A to F. I do know that one is 360, the other one is 240, but I will just take it overall. So seeing whether to pick a 240 or a 360 Liquid AIO. Having said this, right, in each section over here, starting from the CPU, I selected 3 best temperature, clock speed, the 3 best clock frequency, and followed by the rest. Else for TJ, right, which is for the GPU, I have selected only 2. As you can see the figures over here, there are a total of 360 degrees Celsius. So I'll just select 2. Now, when I overall look at it, having the most blue highlighted is the best, which is A and D. Now you might be saying that, hey Q, how come the rest, like, you know, the style B for 360, right, there are some good highlights over here. Why didn't I choose this? Well, based on the fact that the temperature was not really that great and the GPU was not great, even though the rest of the temperature, like the chipset, motherboard and such, are having good temperature. And based on the fact of the orientation of the fans, take for example B. Now, why are you having good temperature on the chipset and VRM and such? Based on the fact that when the cool air pushes from the bottom, it hits your GPU and it dissipates up, and it's been drawn to the side, the warm air. And the motherboard area, in fact, is having lots of cool air due to the fact that the rear fan is blowing to the motherboard area. But this does not cool the radiator at all. So having said this, right, in fact, all the hot air being dissipated off from the motherboard is hitting towards your radiator, whereby this is the only way that you exhaust all the hot air. So having to say this, right, the surface area on the radiator will conduct more heat, resulting, look at the temperature, it's not really that great. And also on the GPU side itself, right, it's also heating up. See? Because the hot air is recited, it's not dissipating out fast enough through the back to the rear. Instead, it depends on the front, and there are back portion of the GPU which need to dissipate heat. Though there are ventilator holes over here, right, but you need things, you need some pressure to push the hot air out. That's why I didn't select B, reason being of the temperature of the CPU and the GPU. Now, as I explained this, right, the rest, I believe you can figure out yourself why it's reacting this way, as in like, how come some of them having a good temperature and how come some of them are not. So it's based on the orientation of the fan. Now, having to say so, right, overall balance, I will choose A and D. But I am more towards heading to go for A, which has all the good temperature. Else for D, right, I would say that if you're on the tight budget, probably you can choose this route, as in like to purchase a 240. Besides sharing with you the thermal results on this setup in this O11 Vision, something which I like to highlight, Now, this is a very beautiful case, but if you are staying in a hot and humid country like where I am, please do not place any high-end processor. As you have witnessed, right, I have to lower down my power consumption, set the PPO2, and to do the offset. As I know that my 7950X, right, can go above 5.2 and a max boost of 5.6 GHz. But with this arrangement in this case, right, since it's not much of an airflow, I will have to power down all the way to 160 watt, which allows me to pull the processor up to 5 gig, and that's it. And if I were to run this at default in this case, right, it's even worse. It will go max 95 degrees Celsius, and my processor, my motherboard, my GPU start to heat up and it start to throttle. So take note on this, unless you turn on the aircon while you're using the system. Now, this only apply in hot and humid countries. If you're in cooler areas, right, that shouldn't be a problem. In fact, I believe that you'll be able to place a high-end processor, but you still need to power limit down, but not as much as what I've done. Besides this, right, while configuring all the fans and the arrangement on the Liquid AIO and such, now I noticed that make sure at all times, be it whether you're configuring only the 360 Liquid AIO or a 240 Liquid AIO, your bottom fans, please do not flip it. Right now it's intake. Make sure at all times it's intake. If you do it exhaust, right, your GPU will definitely suffer based on the fact that your GPU is trying to draw cool air. So that is one point. And while you're doing that, right, though it's pulling hot air from the bottom, right, your motherboard area will suffer a lot as there are no cool air, especially when you have your 360 Liquid AIO doing as intake, right. You're drawing warm air towards your motherboard area. So the only area that allows you to draw cool air is at the bottom. Even if you to flip the back and to exhaust from the side, right, and to exhaust from the bottom, right, now there's a restriction when you're placing your GPU horizontally. Reason being, right, the circulation of air is within the bottom, the hot air, and it will not go up. And when you're pushing the cool air in through the rear, I mean, you will cool your motherboard, not a problem, but your hot air, right, will just go straight to your radiator when your side 360, right, is doing exhaust. So take note on this. At all times, make sure that the bottom fan is as intake. Now, also another pointer whereby you mount, let's say your side with, let's say you're mounting this way, the 240 at the rear, and the side, right, it says only fans intake. Make sure you do not flip the tray and to push your fan when you're doing intake. If you are doing exhaust, you can do that, no problem. Reason being, right, you will need the gap for the fans to pull cool air. I know that there's a mesh over there, you can push it in, but there are still restrictions. So make sure that you give a gap between the mesh and to your fan in order for your fan to draw cool air in. Now, besides this, someone have actually asked me this question when I was speeding this case. Can I do this vertical mount? Yes, you can, but you will need to figure out how the airflow goes. One thing that I wouldn't do vertical mount in this case, reason being, right, having the 360 radiator, having intake, and the bottom fans as intake, right, you need more area to dissipate the heat and to force out all the heat out. You do not have a top exhaust, you only left with the rear. And if you do it vertical mount, right, everything will be lifted up, as in your motherboard will be at a high level mode. I mean, the motherboard tray have to go up, and you have to sacrifice one of the rear fans, leaving only one exhaust area. So it's a no-go. Now, with this said, I'd like to thank Lenny to have provided all this equipment for me to fiddle with, and to Block Soda to have done the delivery. If you guys are new to my channel, welcome to my channel. If you like my content, do remember to subscribe and to click on the notification bell button. Till then, take care, goodbye, see ya.